This is the grid that the Bombers call home.
You're throwing the tee in the ground. If your hand's not shaking, there's something wrong.
I'm in my element. It's evident that there's levels to the game. I'm in my element. Flow is like water. I'm forced to a fire. I'm feeling like gold. Gotta stay grounded, stay down to earth. Following God and you grinding. You do as you told. I don't work to make you like me, but I'm front and center. Word to Spike Lee. I'm in my element. Ooh, yeah. I'm in my element. Ooh, yeah. I'm in my element. I'm in my element. Yeah. I'm in my element. Ooh, yeah. I'm in my element.
Welcome back. We are here in the seniors division in Port Rowan, Canada. I'm Alexis Belton here at Ryan Riesbach. This has been an eventful morning. We got to watch the seniors compete as they dwindled down to the top 6, and we've seen all the numbers.
Yeah, it's we've had some struggles. Some of the players struggled early on, especially in that first set. Our current leader right now with the best seed, Rob Orstaglio, with the drive of 373 yards. Jeff Gavin, Canadian, 372 second. Mike Bauman, 363. EJ McDonald, 362. David Mobley, 357. And rounding out the top 6, Anthony Livingston. Those 6 players are going to be broken up into 2 groups of 3. They're going to compete. 2 players advance to the final 4, and then we're going to finish with a heads-up match for the senior division champion today.
Yeah, we've got, well, we started off with 3 Canadians. We've got 2 Canadians, so I wonder if they're going to win here on their home turf. We've got Jeff Gavin, we've got Anthony Livingston, and Stephen Lowe, who actually has won a lot of Canadian long drive championships. He didn't make it to the top 6, but yeah.
Yeah, Ian George Nagy just got edged out at 340, so they won't be joining us. But Anthony, who lives in Florida, Livingston, right? He's Canadian. There's a few. We've got a few competitors that are Canadians living in America. So it's nice they kind of come home and get that Canadian air back in their lungs.
Without a doubt. If you look closely, his belt is the Canadian flag, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But we've got an exciting day as well. After we crown a champion for the senior division, we'll go into the open division. Top 18 go down to, what is that, top 16?
So we've got 24 left, and then we'll go whittle it down to 2 groups of, of the 2 groups of 12, 8 from each will go into a top 16, and that's where we'll start the match play.
It's going to be really fun. But yesterday, before we left, we got to see who was going to go to Worlds. We had 5 competitors that punched their tickets to Worlds, Jeff Gavin being one. Owen Meads, who came onto the scene yesterday and completely just dominated.
Yeah, he's a star. He's the real deal. Came over from Europe. This is his first year competing. I felt like I had jinxed him at first. I was talking him up a little.
It was only the first set, though.
Yeah, and then after that, it was he just cruised.
He won every set after that. He's definitely in my top to win this event. TJ Baker also punched his ticket along with Sean Williams and Devin Fitzgerald. So excited to see you guys at World Championships in Atlanta. Yeah,
the number keeps growing. If you're interested, there's still some qualifying happening at the Connecticut event at the end of the month, and then in Utah. So a lot of competition still to come. If you're interested in competing, you can still qualify for those events and get in and get to the World Championship.
I think another fun thing that is hosted every single month is that there's a TrackMan competition for World Long Drive that every month they're giving out $1,000. Does that make you want to be an amateur again?
If I was eligible, I would do it. Yeah.
So if you're at home and you're watching and you want to figure out how to make next steps to see what this is like, go check out TrackMan.
That's right. And we got our first group on the tee box, Robert Orstaglio. He's got to be, he and Jeff Gavin have probably got to be the favorite here. EJ McDonald, strong performance earlier, and then you can never count out David Mobley, multiple world championship. He's the consummate competitor. So,
who do you think the sleeper in this group is?
Well, I think EJ sometimes gets overlooked. He's not a big name. He's won events before, but he's not one of these, past world champions from the open division. But he's good. He's a good ball striker, and he tends to step up, I think, in these later rounds too. So should be pretty good. But Rob Orstaglio is not a sleeper because he's won tour events this year already. Noticeably, Eddie Fernandez not here at this event. He really has been dominating the senior division this year. Rob has finished second to him multiple times. So my pick would be Robert Orstaglio in this situation.
Yeah, I float between he and Jeff Gavin, with this being Jeff's home turf, hitting at this facility many times. I think it I think it might come down to the two of them, depending on how they finish right here.
Yeah, and Jeff's won multiple events on this tee box and grid, so he's very familiar with it. Canadian National Championship. He's comfortable here, which is important.
So are you taking notes? Because you said you're going to be on this tee not in not a long time.
Yeah, and I actually drove some of the competitors down to the grid earlier just to kind of give them an idea of what they were looking at. And we talked about this yesterday. So many undulations and the movement, or not movement, but variation in the ground. It's not completely flat. It's a fairway, but it does play a role in how you want to approach your shot.
Without a doubt. It's also interesting listening to these guys talk about their game plan. And because they hit it a little bit shorter than the open division, it kind of benefits them with having that kick point and that speed slot being around 340 or so.
Yeah, they're going to get some roll a little bit more than you would some of the longer open division competitors carrying it and then having the ball just check up. So.
All right, Rob just hit his final ball.
Yep, and maybe I jinxed Rob too. So I've got.
I don't think so.
Rob not happy with his set there. EJ and David not putting up huge numbers, but putting balls in play. We've talked about that so much this weekend. Survive, advance, put balls in play. Take what points you can. This is an elimination round, so
okay, yeah.
350, 353, both consistent. That falls about where both of them were a little earlier. We're getting a little bit more of a headwind than we have recently. Or this morning, I guess. So that's going to be a little bit of a challenge. Exaggerate the left and right movement.
Just gives you opportunity.
Shots.
Making sure you get it in with an elimination round. You really want to get it into the grid.
Yeah, early too, because when you put a number up early, it tends to put pressure on the other player, especially if it's a pretty good ball. It doesn't have to be like the longest ball of the day, but if you're at a pretty solid drive, people start pressing a little bit.
Without a doubt. Now on the tee we have Anthony Livingston, Jeff Gavin, and is that
Mike Bauman in the center tee slot. And Mike's been around for years. He's a few years back he injured his wrist. I think he fell from a ladder and had like a compound fracture.
Oh, no.
Drove himself to the emergency
goodness.
room. He's a tough guy. And but he's back. His wrist is healed and he's in pretty good shape. Obviously you can see, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a big number from Mike too. He was the third longest drive in the preliminary round, so he's definitely got horsepower. He and Gavin would be the horsepower picks here. Anthony not quite as fast, but a very consistent player.
Very consistent. Sets up well for him.
Yeah, and Anthony usually hits a pretty good ball. He doesn't have a lot of spin to his ball flight.
And he put one in the grid on his first ball.
Yeah, and you can see he's got his Canadian flag belt buckle representing.
Which is great because now you can see how he's moving. They always say the belt buckle is the key in a golf swing.
Yeah, if the belt buckle doesn't move much, you're probably experiencing a lot of power leak there.
Yes. Jeff Gavin's still looking to get one on the board. We'll look at some numbers here.
Yeah, and Bauman's numbers there, 125 club head speed, 190 ball speed, 12-degree launch. Those are good numbers right now. Gavin, he's at 137, 207. So if he can put a ball in play with those speeds, he should be somewhere around the 370 or higher range.
Without a doubt.
And he's in the lead right now. Looks like the 339, just over 337. Anthony Livingston.
See, ball flight is a little high.
Yeah, Jeff hits a high ball flight. Bauman can hit a high ball flight. Usually Bauman's more of a kind of a mid-penetrating shot. Yeah, I'm really impressed actually with because Gavin hit yesterday too, right? So in the regional and qualified for the World Championship. It'll be interesting to see how that ends up here if he kind of runs out of gas, because a lot of times you can lose your legs and then that affects where you're placing the ball on the grid or if you're even hitting the grid.
That looks like a good ball. Shot tracer is right here. It's 208 ball speed. Looks like it right down the right side.
Yeah, I would expect
should stay in.
If that's in, that should be the winning drive. He's at 339 in the lead right now, but I would be surprised if the others could surpass that distance.
Yeah, sometimes those first balls that you get in might not necessarily hold up against everyone if they don't hit it in, right? And so you want to make sure you build, and that's the biggest thing. You hit a couple in, and then you build from there.
Yeah, it's a common approach. I think a lot of players have success with that. So we see that 379 Gavin on his 5th ball, almost 40 yards difference.
Longest ball of the day so far.
Yeah. Yeah. Bauman's numbers, all the numbers are finalized now, so Jeff Gavin and Anthony Livingston will be moving on. We're going to match them up with the 2 players from the previous round.
For our Final Four. This is going to be a lot of fun. Match play is my favorite. We're going to see a lot of that later today in the open division.
Yeah, and I like this heads up where they're all on the tee box at the same time right now in this Final Four. Me personally, the format of going 4 for 2 and advancing, I like the speed at which it works. Because we'll see later today in the open division, it's a little bit different where you're doing a match play, 1 versus 1. You hit, you may not hit again for 45, 50 minutes. When you do the 4 for 2, you're right back up on the tee box in 5 or 10 minutes. So you kind of more easily keep that groove.
With that, and even going into the next thing, you want to make sure that everyone's ready to go.
Yeah, a big part of all of this is, and people, if you have never been to a competition before, you don't realize how often players are kind of warming up or trying to stay warm so they don't have to warm up all the way again. Because your body cools down between sets. So in football, right, if you're an offensive player, you've got to wait to get back on the field. So you'll see sometimes they'll be on a bike on the sideline. Here you've got to go.
Or a kicker kicking right beforehand.
Right.
Always the quarterback throwing. Yeah, that's a great comparison.
You're trying to compete at your peak, and to have your body at that peak performance condition, can be difficult. You can burn out too early or never get warmed up. Sometimes the players will see that when it's cold. If they're from a warmer climate, they have a hard time getting their body warm because, if you're from Florida, you never experience 40-degree temperatures hitting balls, then you're not used to getting warmed up, and then it takes a lot more time to do that.
And once you stay warm, it's hard to go back. If you go sit and watch for a little bit, you'll cool down again. That's a hard back and forth to get warm.
Yeah.
All right, we've got David Mobley, Anthony Livingston, E.J. McDonald, and Jeff Gavin to see who's going to be our final 2.
Yeah, and Jeff came from the first tee slot, I believe. Now he's all the way over to the 4th tee slot. He told me earlier when I was talking to him he likes that 4th tee slot better.
Works well with his shot shape. He's big, right to lefter.
Yeah, he likes that big high draw.
Yeah. And for this grid, having him to be able to aim out at that right tree and just let it fall back, it's perfect. And he put his first ball in the grid.
355 now. I mean, obviously he's got more in the tank because he's been in the 70s earlier today, but that confidence level of, you look over at the scoreboard and you see 3 zeros, and then you're at 355 with the ball in play. He's going to free up, loosen up, be just confident in his swing, which is in a much better state of mind to put balls in play and be successful. Livingston's on the board now, 336. I mean, Gavin is definitely the speed guy compared to the others here. I mean, EJ's at 138, 139, which is closer to Gavin. But when Gavin steps on it,
he's 206.
Yeah, and that's that product of hitting the center of the club face, right? EJ maybe a little towards the heel or low on the face. That's going to take some of the punch out of the ball.
So are the clubs in the senior division, are they set up any differently than the open division?
No, everybody kind of sets their clubs up differently. They have a different feel, but typically the shaft, you've got to find whatever flex of shaft that you like, the length of shaft. Some players will hit a 46, like Orstoglo earlier went to a 46 to put balls in play. These players, I think Rob hits a little bit stiffer shaft, but the trend has been to go to a softer shaft. But most of the setups are going to be pretty similar in the same division because the speeds are very close.
Jeff Gavin now at 360.
Yeah, and Mobley taking second place there at 355. We're still waiting on a couple of his drives. We're down to most players' last drive. It looks like we may, unless EJ or Anthony comes up with a big ball here at the end. Maybe a Mobley Gavin finals.
I don't think Anthony liked that one, or EJ.
Yeah, you can see.
But Mobley loved that last ball. We got a fist pump. I think a little hop, too.
Yeah. You know, David has been around for years and years, and took some time off earlier this year. He was just told me how he'd moved to Charlotte and getting settled in there, and so now he feels like he's in a good place, back starting to compete again. We'd like to see that. You know, David, he is a tactician too. He's, you know, psychologically on the tee box, he's trying to do things that other people a lot of times aren't doing. He's trying to get in your head. He'll talk to himself to bug you, you know, to do things like, and it's all gamesmanship, right? But he's kind of a master at doing that. And, you know, we'll see here. I mean, Gavin 360.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Maybe that was the ball he yelled at, the 73.
373. Okay, well, it looks like our final match will be David Mobley and Jeff Gavin, both who have hit a few balls in the 370s.
Yeah, that's got to give David confidence, especially where he's going right back up to the tee box. We'll see where they put him, who's in slot 2, who's in slot 3.
EJ McDonald, 352.
Temperature is warming up, though. I mean,
it is.
You and I were under a tent, but I can feel the heat kind of off the grass, radiating off the grass.
This morning started off a little bit colder, and we saw that in the amateur division, and now as it's warming up, we're also getting a little bit more wind. It's going to be interesting, yes, for the finals here, but also for the open division later today to see how the guys adjust to that.
Yeah, I think even though the wind is a little in our face, I think we're still going to see a lot of balls, high 300s, low 400s. I was really impressed with some of the players last night, even in the rain, you know, hitting balls over 400. So
wow.
Super impressive.
Who's your pick for the open division?
Today, I have to pick myself. If I don't think I can win, then I should.
Finally.
You know, I'm going to pick myself.
Yesterday, he was, you know, describing a person that sounded like you.
Super handsome. I think that was thrown around. You know, I would say we were talking about this last night at the house. When you get to this point, we've got 24 competitors left. I really honestly believe that all 24 of these competitors could win the event. They could actually win the world championship. You know, if you get some bounces, some things to go your way, other players maybe don't perform.
Without a doubt.
You know, any of these guys, it's going to be a bloodbath today. I think you're going to see that it's going to be really, you know, that bubble is going to be real tight, and you're not going to see players that are, you know, 800 and 1,000 points. I think you probably, you know, see more around the high scores being around 700, 750, just because it's going to be super tough.
It's going to be competitive, and it's going to be entertaining, that's for sure. But right now, the most entertaining thing that's going on in the world is the senior division match-off between David Mobley and Jeff Gavin.
Yeah, I want you to notice something here. Gavin, he's already hit his first ball, and David Mobley is doing a routine. Yeah, he is getting into his mental state, right, trying to get into a flow state. He will a lot of times not hit all 6 balls. Sometimes he'll only hit 3 balls because he trusts his process so much. He's usually pretty good to get some feedback, too. When he hits a ball, he'll let you know because he wants the other competitor to hear what he's saying.
What's going on.
Yeah. And
that's a good one.
Yeah, and Gavin, I mean, in this case here, Gavin's 6 to 10 miles an hour faster. So he should win the ball speed war, but we talk about this all the time. It's not just the ball speed war.
Not at all.
Especially here. David's one of the players that I drove down to look at the grid with. And he mentioned how it was different than he thought it was. He thought that there would be a lot more roll out of bounds on the left side, and then he was confident that balls would stay in after seeing it.
And these are 2 veterans, 2 people that have won many, many times. And so it's interesting because I don't think a lot of the tactics that David would normally do can affect Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff, world champion, senior division world champion. David, senior division and open division world champion. So both of these guys, maybe that's why we're not seeing a lot of, verbal or hearing a lot of verbal banter back and forth is because
they're just in a zone.
Yeah. So far, no balls in play. I think David's last ball looked like it might be in play down that right side.
And Jeff's could have gone in just a little bit.
364, Gavin.
All right, in the grid.
Still waiting for these balls from David. I don't know if they're having a hard time maybe relaying the numbers back. Usually we get them back a little bit quicker.
This makes me really nervous because you never know what could pop up there.
That's right.
I know Jeff is probably feeling that as well. He's like, you don't have any results. You just got to keep hitting.
And he's down to his last swing here. We'll see.
He put everything into that one.
Yeah, and we're hearing David's
that
reaction.
Last one. All right.
The suspense.
He is letting us know how much he loved that one.
And we're in suspense because we're waiting for David's numbers to be called back. So both competitors, mutual hug, and we see here David just coming up short on his 4th ball. We're still waiting for his 6th ball to be called back and confirmed. We're actually still waiting for Jeff's 364 to be confirmed. It could be possible they're close enough to measure. Okay, looks like David's last ball is out of play down the right side. Man, there we go. We've got it finalized. Jeff Gavin, senior division winner here in Port Rowan this year. David Mobley just coming up short with a 363-yard drive. Congratulations to Jeff. We talked about maybe it was the confidence of being here on the grid, something, a place where he's won before multiple times, competes every year for the Canadian Nationals here on this tee box. Great performance. And you look at them, both of them having a great time up there. David maybe trying to steal the spotlight
here.
We'll
get those numbers back to you right after this. But congratulations, Jeff, on winning. You're the 2023 Port Rowan champion. How does it feel?
It feels fantastic. Be back in the winner's circle. I love this grid. Been here so many times, and it's always been good to me.
How many times have you won on this grid?
I don't know. I really don't know. You'd have to ask Bill.
Wow. When you don't know, that means it's a lot. So we just want to say congratulations. Here's your trophy. Hold that up. And this is our 2023 Port Rowan champion. There's the winning ball. All right, we will be back here at 12:30 for the open division start.